Hey guys, welcome to 3 Up and 3 Down, where today we will tackle the DraftKings main contest, a 3-game contest which begins at noon. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. Hopefully you hit like and subscribe and get notifications for my future videos. We did pretty well on our 3 Up and 3 Down 2 weeks ago, which is what it was, the last big contest. That was championship week. We had 6 picks, 4 were outstanding, triple value, 1 was very good, then 1 was a dud. Hopefully you guys stayed away from that dud. It got me a couple times, but it was still a profitable week. For those of you unfamiliar to the channel, once again, this is where I usually give you 3-up players, 3 players that I think that you should pay up for, even though they might be a little bit higher priced, and 3 down players, players that I believe are undervalued and are worth taking a shot on. Now, because there are only 3 games on this slate, the 3 playoffs games scheduled for today, it's going to be difficult for me to give you 6 picks. So what I decided to do instead is I'm going to give you 2 up picks, 2 down picks, and I'm going to throw in 3 players, all receivers ironically, under 4,000, which I think have a shot at doing something special. When I looked at the slate for today, and like I said, it's 3 playoff games. It is SMU at Penn State, Clemson at Texas, and Tennessee at Ohio State. The first thing I did was look at the weather. Clemson, Texas, no problem at all. Penn State and Ohio State both hosting games. Penn State actually looks a little bit worse. They're both going to be with temperatures in the 20s. At Ohio State and Columbus, that's going to drop even more as that is a night game. But the winds at Penn State are going to be a little bit higher, up to 10 to 15, gusting to about 25. So that could affect some of the longer throws and perhaps even how teams approach this game. Now, what I had the hardest problem with, and I'll tell you right now, first of all, I hate small game slates as far as college football goes. Love them for the NBA. Don't ask me why, I just do better on them. But for college football, I always try to look for that hidden treasure. And when you've only got 6 teams to pick from, it makes it a little more difficult, especially with games of this stake, because there's not going to be teams taking a lot of chances unless they're big underdogs. And it's going to be harder to find that hidden treasure. And players are not going to be as low owned as they normally would be. But either way, hopefully what I give you here will help you guys out, help you make some money. Running back spots where I'm going to start, and I'm going to tell you this was probably the toughest part for me this time. You've got 6 teams playing today. First of all, there's 134 teams in the major division college football, prior to known as Division 1. So you have 134 teams. Of the 6 teams playing today, 5 of the 6 are ranked in the top 12 in run defense. I guess it's kind of expected, since these are supposed to be some of the best teams in the country. But still, that's kind of brutal to try to pick up, running backs, and you're going to have at least 2, 3 if you decide to use one as a flex. And it was tough. So the next thing I looked at teams that had the same running back, the workhorse running back, from the beginning of the year till now. And there were really only 3. Brashard Smith from SMU, Phil Maffa from Clemson, and Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. Immediately, I went away from Phil Maffa from Clemson only because they are a 14-point underdog, and Maffa's banged up. Normally, I think that would be a fairly good pick, but I'm staying away from him. For the most part, I may sprinkle a little Maffa here and there, simply because we don't know how bad the injury is. He is going to play, but he has been banged up for a little bit now, and if Clemson falls behind, they may rely on the arm of Cade Klubnik. Now, Dylan Sampson is an interesting one for Tennessee. Ohio State's defense is incredibly tough against the run, but what the defense does is they're kind of like a bend and don't break defense. Sampson is gonna get a ton of carries. He's got a chance of going over 100 yards. But Ohio State doesn't give up touchdowns on offense, so it's it may come down whether or not he hits value, whether or not he finds the end zone. I believe the Buckeyes have given up 4 defensive touchdowns in their last 4 games. So, having said all that, the first person we're going to go with 2 up today. On my 2 up is going to be running back Brashard Smith of SMU, which plays Penn State. Brashard Smith is 7,700. I just think he is going to get touches. The SMU goes as both Smith and quarterback Kelvin Jennings go. It's cold weather game. SMU is going to try to run the ball. He's had 16 carries at least in the last 6 games, and he also catches the ball. He has had at least 28 fantasy points in the last 6 games. I don't think SMU is going to get routed. I do think Penn State wins this game. And if they can stay close for 2.5, 3 quarters, I believe Smith will be a great value. And even if not, he's going to be a value catching passes out of the backfield. Now, the next one on the 2 ups side is going to be tight end, in this case wide receiver Tyler Warren from Penn State, staying right at that game. Warren is 7,200. He is the highest priced receiver on the slate, but I'm still going with him. He's an NFL ready tight end who is easily the number 1 receiver for Penn State. I understand the weather is going to be, could be a little bit tough, but that weather affects tight ends less than it does outside receivers and even slot receivers because their routes are shorter. He has had double-digit fantasy points in every game this season. Now we're going to go to the 2 down players that I think you should take a chance at, even though they're not as expensive as some of their counterparts. And we're going to stay in that game again, and we're going to match up Tyler Warren with quarterback Drew Aller at 7,300. Now you're going to say 7,300 is, not a cheap price. However, there's only one other starting quarterback in today's games that is lower than him. So being the 5th of 6, I think that's a pretty good price for him. I'm really expecting a big game from Warren and Aller combined. I think Warren is the person that makes this offense go, and Aller can also, if the weather happens to get bad, he can also run the ball. He's not afraid to take it off and run. So I'm matching up Aller with Warren. And finally, on the 2 downside, we're going to go with running back Quintrevin Wisner of Texas, which plays Clemson. I mentioned 5 of the 6 teams were ranked in the top 12. Clemson is the one that isn't. Now, it's not an awful run defense by any stretch. I believe they're 45th in the country, which puts them just outside of the top third. But I think I didn't mention him as one of the players that was a workhorse from the beginning of the year because he wasn't. He was actually a backup to Jaden Blue of Texas. But Blue, because of injuries, because of fumble issues, because unreliability, is now a clear number 2 behind Wisner. In the last 4 games, Wisner has averaged 24 carries while adding 10 catches in those games. So those are my 2 up and 2 down, and I promise you 3 receivers under 4,000 that may be worth taking a shot at. Number 1 is going to be wide receiver Carnell Tate of Ohio State, which plays Tennessee. Tate is 3,900. The former 5-star recruit has really come into his own as Ohio State's 3rd receiver. In the last 4 games, he has 20 catches, 6'4", 4 and 6. He's going to be involved in the offense. Now the next 2 are a little riskier, but I'm giving them to you anyways because they are extremely cheap. One is going to be wide receiver Ryan Wilson from Clemson. From Texas against Clemson. He is 3,500. He is going to be Texas's number 3 receiver, and I think they will throw the ball quite a bit. He's a long ball threat, but again, this is a risky pick, but not as risky as the last one I'm going to give you, and that is going to be Tyler Brown, wide receiver from Clemson, in that same game against Texas, the one game that we're guaranteed good weather at. Brown has not played since week 5. He has battled injuries all year. He has not had a big game even in the first 5 games. He was only a 3-star recruit. I'm telling you all the bad things, but for whatever reason, Dabo Swinney's very high on him. And add to that the fact that Isaiah Bond, their number 1 wide receiver, is hurt again. I think that he gets a lot of snaps this week, and if he can come away with 3-4 catches, that will more than cover this value. Once again, our 2-up players for this week are running back Rashard Smith of SMU at 7,700, tight end Tyler Warren of Penn State at 7,200. Our 2-down players are quarterback Drew Aller of Penn State at 7,300 and running back Travius Wisner of Texas at 6,200. Please hit like and subscribe. You get notified. Probably going to have another video next week. I'm going to take a look early in the week as to what the better contests are. And hopefully you guys win some money today. And I wish you luck. Signing off now. This is Coach Luke.